Hello everybody, good to see you. I'm coming to you from the beautiful Hong Kong. And I want to come on this video today and I want to share with you guys a little bit about what's going on firsthand. I know you see CNN fake news and also many other news outlets that are reporting stories, and sometimes the stories can be slanted, sometimes they can have an agenda. I want to give you guys a very balanced understanding of what's happening here. So we're in Hong Kong right now. We're in the beautiful district. There's a wedding. Show the wedding. Show the wedding. Show the wedding. 去婚礼，有婚礼。哇，漂亮，漂亮。一个婚礼 ，OK。继续，继续。There's a wedding going on here at our hotel. We're at a beautiful 5-star hotel. But let me tell you what's going on. As you see, life is still happening. People are still getting married. Thank God I was able to get a Starbucks, which is the stress that's going on right now. You see, what's happening is with all the protests, riots, and things like that that's going on, sometimes daily life things are very difficult. Yesterday morning, we wanted to get an orange juice and we wanted to get a coffee over at the McDonald's, but we couldn't because the whole glass was destroyed by the protesters. So we use the word protesters lightly. Of course, in the Chinese side, propaganda ministry side, they're calling them terrorists. And maybe there are some who you could classify as that. I wouldn't classify that, but I would have to say there's also a lot of violent protesters. Now let me tell you the story. What began as a very peaceful protest, which began of actually a lot of Christians, old people coming out with their children, having these protests, they were just expressing their, desire for certain things to happen. One is the cancellation and withdrawal of an extradition bill, which said that people that could come to Hong Kong could be arrested and taken to mainland China in these black prisons or whatever. So that's one of the things they wanted to have withdrawal. Another thing they wanted was universal suffrage, which is the right to vote in their own leaders, not to be picked by Beijing. And during this time, this was agreed in the 90s, and it still hasn't come to pass. So there was a list of about 5 things that they were protesting for. And actually, it was inspiring, it was beautiful, when it was peaceful. However, other foreign actors have been getting involved in this. And there's been a narrative being told to a lot of young people that's inspiring them to do bad things. Much like Antifa in America, they're hurting people and making life bad, destroying things. We're seeing the same thing happen here, but in a much escalated manner. So this was a beautiful place with the center of industry. You got London, New York, and Hong Kong, the major financial centers of the world. A place of peace, a place of freedom. That is now being threatened by violent actors. Not people who are peacefully protesting, but by people who are being influenced by foreign actors. And they're taking knives, they're putting them at the end of umbrellas, and they're stabbing police officers, and they are having these bombs made, homemade bombs. I forgot what you call them, Molotovs, something like that. They put alcohol and rags, and they're throwing these bombs, and they're doing all kinds of violent things against the police. And they're burning down their own people's businesses and restaurants. I was just down the block here, right on the corner, and about 2 nights ago, and the protesters were coming, and all the restaurant owners had to take down these things, these big metal sheets, and lower them so no one would go inside of their restaurants because they didn't want their glass to be broken or rioting to happen. Yesterday, about 2 o'clock in the Sopu Mall, the protesters were going into the malls, disturbing shoppers, disturbing the shops. So people that are local people that love freedom, they're suffering too. Their businesses are suffering, industries are suffering. People are afraid to go outside because of violent actors. Now, of course, I'm American, as you know, and I do support, what is right. I don't support who is right. I support what is right. Whether it's in Israel, I support Israel. I love the state of Israel, but I do not support the LGBT, gay marriage, and all those kind of laws, because I support what is right biblically. So in mainland China, I support a lot of the good things happening there. In Hong Kong, I support the good things happening here. But whether it's America, whether it's Israel or Hong Kong or China, I do not support the negative things happening. And what started off as peaceful protests, many are getting involved, inciting others, and I believe that there's CIA involvement to create disorder in this country. Now you have to understand, all of these watching, that you sympathize for the Hong Kong people, the Hong Kong protesters. I also do sympathize, but you have to understand there are other actors, and the police officers who are being demonized, they are Hong Kong people. My uncle was a police officer. My sister-in-law, Arceli, is a police officer. And if things like this were happening, and they have happened with Antifa and stuff in Chicago, it is wrong to hurt the police officers. It is wrong to destroy businesses in the local community who are just trying to earn a living. These things are wrong. These things are not appropriate. And we need to stand against this. You know, today there was a shooting that took place about 2-3 hours ago right down the block here. And what happened was some of the violent protesters were trying to take away and disarm the police officers. You can't do that. I mean, listen, I grew up in Chicago, I grew up in the gangs, and when we saw the police, some ran. I could never run because I was too big. But what I did is I said, "Excuse me, officer." I understood respect. I understood authority. And I said, "Okay, officer, yes, here's my marijuana. Here's my, here's whatever." And I would just be honest with the police, and they protected me. Police are there to serve and defend. The Bible says that the police bear arms, that they carry not the sword in vain, that they're ministers of justice. And the Hong Kong police are ministers of justice. They're here for safety. They're here for security. They're here to protect the businesses. What do the violent protesters want the police to do? Do they want them to go home, not to come outside, not to work when they're outside, destroying cars, destroying buildings, destroying businesses? Of course they have to be out here, and of course they have to bring safety, and of course they have to be armed. And if violence is used against them, or violence is used against other people, they have to then not bear the sword in vain. They have to use their sword, use their guns to stop. And sometimes it requires a death to take place to stop these violent actors if they are also using deadly force against another. So I think we can all understand that. And we have to understand that we have to, if you stand with the Hong Kong people for the universal rights, and you stand for those different things, that's good. But you also have to stand for the protection of the police. You have to stand for civility. You have to support the police and the authorities. And you have to understand that what we need to support is not rioting and not destruction and not, anti-authority, because that is unbiblical. What we need to support is dialogue, talk, peaceful actions, and so things can happen in a godly and a peaceful way. And especially if there are any Christians watching me and you're from Hong Kong, in Hong Kong, we need to teach this and preach this, and we need to support peace and civility, respect for police, respect for authority, as this is what would please God. This is what would please Jesus, not violence and dishonor, respect against authorities. You have to understand, Hong Kong does belong to China. It is their country, and they have an agreement to 2050 to slowly transition, and they need to do this transition peacefully and respectfully. And if they don't like it, and they voice their opinions, and they peacefully and respectfully try to make a difference and talk and do things. And if they don't, it's not the way they want to go, then maybe they should consider immigrating. But violence is not the answer. That's not what God would call us to do. He would call us to respect authorities, to honor those who are in authority, and to pray for those who are in authority. So we are here in Hong Kong. I have interviewed a police officer yesterday. Today we're interviewing a senator, who was stabbed in the heart, and he's in the hospital right now. We're going to try and go to the hospital and talk to him. But I'm seeing firsthand, talking to police officers, to say, I love my country, I love Hong Kong, I do respect and understand my people's plea for certain things they want, but violence and disrespect against authority, against their own people, against the shops and the markets and the people just trying to sell fruits, it's wrong and it's unfair, and we need to support and pray for the police and the authorities of Hong Kong. This is both sides of the story. I'm Bishop Joe Castillo. Love you.